fellow human beings. We're all up late on a school night, but some things are worth staying up late on a school night. I love when Sue said, somebody lost your phone, they're holding it for you, but wait until the program's over. Can you imagine if you're the one that lost your phone? You are not waiting until the program is over. They left the seat right away. But Neil, welcome. We are so glad that you are here.
I love you, Gayle.
I feel the same
everybody
about
loves you. I love you, Gayle.
No, I feel the same about you. And audience, show some respect, because here before you is People Magazine's sexiest astrophysicist alive. Oh, shucks.
Wait. That requires clarification, okay? So
just accept it, Neil.
No, first of all, that was 45 pounds ago, okay? Measure time by girth. Also, it's not obvious how competitive that category was, okay? Because People Magazine has sexiest man alive beyond category. That's who's on the cover.
Yes.
And that year it was Brad Pitt. Okay.
Well, see, that's okay.
We were good with that. And then they have categories that are highly competitive. One of them is sexiest new action star, sexiest news anchor. These are some handsome men you're talking about. Then sexiest astral. I don't know who I beat. Did I beat out Stephen Hawking? I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't know. I don't get beheaded about it. That's all.
I think the word he's looking for is yes, thank you, Gayle, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You know, it's funny because I did something with The Rock earlier this week. He has a new movie coming out, Black Adam, and he was sexiest man alive back in whatever year. And he goes, well, I happen to think it goes in perpetuity. I was wondering if you feel the same.
Oh, so the difference is someone told me that the sexiest man alive gets replaced every year with every next category. But since they had sexiest astrophysicist, that category has never repeated.
There you go. There you go.
So that makes me the sexiest astrophysicist there ever will be.
There
if they don't
go.
ever repeat the category. Right.
Let's talk about Starry Messenger, guys, Cosmic Perspectives on Civilization, which, by the way, congratulations to you. It was an instant bestseller, and it's been on the bestsellers list for 4 weeks, so bravo to you.
Thank you. It debuted on the New York Times. Thank you.
Yes, it debuted, and it's still there in the top seller list.
Thank you.
But I thought, how can we, in a book with the title that I just said to you, how in the world does Beyonce factor into this book? Yet there is Beyonce on page 10, where you say, Neil deGrasse Tyson, there are objective truths and there are personal truths. So how does Beyonce factor into your book on page 10?
Yeah, she showed up early. In the first chapter, where I try to explore so people can understand what it means for something to be true. So I separate out objective truths, which are what the methods and tools of science are exquisitely tuned to establish. And these are truths, once they are established, that remain true whether or not you believe in them, just to be clear. Whereas there are things I would call personal truths. These things are true for you, it's true to your bones, and that they would include things like Beyonce is your queen, okay?
Yeah.
No one is going to take that from you.
Yes.
No one is going to argue with you.
Yes.
That's your personal truth.
Yes.
Religious declarations about your own piety or your own how faithful you are, those are all your personal truths.
Yeah.
Here's the issue. In a pluralistic society, personal truths are something to celebrate, actually, because that represents the diversity of our feelings and our attitudes and our outlooks. If you have a personal truth, if Jesus is your savior, that's a personal truth. Muhammad is your final prophet, that's a personal truth. But if you rise up into power, and you have power over laws and legislation, and then you invoke your personal truths on those laws and legislation, then you are forcing others who don't share your personal truths to have your personal truths. And that's the beginning of the unraveling of a pluralistic democracy. And so it's a dangerous position to walk into.
You know, we should say that Neil deGrasse Tyson sits before you. He's a happily married man. But I wonder what it would be like to be on a date with you, because I wonder if you see science in everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that you do.
Oh, wait, but just wait, but just to be clear.
Calm down, ma'am, calm down.
Wait, just
Someone get the hose. Yeah, see, she sees sexiest.
no, that was
sexiest
45 pounds ago. So, just to be clear,
Yes,
when I sit and watch a sunset,
yes.
I bask in its beauty. It's not, particularly if
Us
there's
too,
a
us
few
too.
clouds and beams, and it's just. But I also know and understand how thermonuclear fusion works deep in its core, and what photons do to get out of the sun. And I know all of that in addition. So for me, the science deepens your love of nature rather than distracts from it.
Distracts from it. You know, there's a great commercial, guys. Chevrolet has a great commercial. And I always say, God, I wonder if Neil, when he sees this commercial, if he thinks about this. And I know you've seen it too. Father and a daughter, cute little girl. And she says to her dad, how big is the ocean? I love that commercial too. How big is the ocean? That's question number one. Number two, she says, Dad, do fish get thirsty? I love that question too. Do you know the answer to those?
I have no idea. I've never asked a fish. I'm guessing not, but I don't know for sure.
But I just thought from a scientific point of view, because I know you're somebody that sees science in everything, and I do love that commercial. I thought, when you hear something like that, do you ponder that or no, not so much?
Do I ponder whether fish are thirsty or whether I would take my daughter to the ocean?
No, just that little girl. Do you ponder?
Yeah. So what that commercial did right is the father could have just said, oh, it's about square miles, but he turned it into an investigation.
Yes.
An exploration.
Yep.
And, we spend the first few years of children's lives teaching them to walk and talk, and the rest of their lives telling them to shut up and sit down. And so what's the solution to that? The solution to that is celebrating their curiosity. And by the way, we think answering a question is the thing to do.
Yes.
And sure, occasionally that's easy and it's simple, but the exploration to the answer in science, in many ways, is more important than the answer itself, because that's the journey. That's the fits and starts. Well, that didn't work. Let me try this. Though this worked better, but I don't think, let's try it again. Can we repeat that? And that's the journey. And if you don't like the journey, you should never be a scientist. And the press, excuse me, you're in the press. The press often just reports scientific discoveries, and you have no idea how many years of a person's life were invested in it.
Yeah.
And so the journey is what matters. So when the dad took the little daughter, on a journey to the coastline, which means they don't live in Kansas or Colorado, just drove to the ocean, that was a beautiful thing, and he's right, spot on.
There also is politics in this book, Neil, which I don't normally.
It's civilization. It's cosmic perspective, not on the moon, cosmic perspective on civilization.
Which I don't think of you normally as stepping into politics, but in this one you say, if an alien landed in our country and said, take me to your leader, your thing is, should they go to the White House or should they go to Comic-Con? And you said they should probably go to Comic-Con.
Well, I'm saying, take me to your leader. I don't really think anyone is going to take him to the White House, no matter who's in there. I'm pretty sure. Well,
because you say scientists are uniquely capable of generating and sustaining peace among nations.
Yeah.
So that's why you're saying that there is something about scientists that they have different kind of superpowers. That's why you say go to the National Academy of Sciences.
The National Academy of Sciences, right. So first,
but why?
The value of pi
doesn't
change when you pass passport control, right? It is the same. The laws of physics are not dependent on where you are in the world. However, when we were children, we had a schoolroom globe in the back of the room.
Yeah.
And there it was, color-coded.
Yeah.
And I remembered thinking as a child, why are they all these different colors? And they said, oh, it's to know where all the states are and where the countries are. And then as an adult, I'm saying, oh, what it's really there so you can know who your enemies are and who your friends are. We are infused with this we-they mentality from the beginning. And if you look at Earth from space, You see it not as the schoolroom globe would tell you. You see it only as nature sees it, with oceans and land and clouds. And that can change you. That's a cosmic perspective on Earth. And so when I think about what a scientist can be or do for civilization, not only build civilization with its discoveries, technology as well, of course, all the STEM fields are the foundations of everything we think of as modern civilization. But for people to say, oh, what you're stepping into politics, every scientist thinks about politics every day. We're just not paid to do it, okay? We live in this world. So, no, you're not asking me about it because you can ask 20 other people, but I have a view of politics, of Republicans, of Democrats, of independents, of who the folks that don't want to pay for anything? Thank you. The libertarians, okay? What, are you going to pay for the road as you walk on it? You know. So
You're going to get in trouble.
no. So we have thoughts about all of them, and we even discuss it in our coffee lounges.
Yeah.
But now I'm saying, I'm sharing with the public what that looks like through a scientific lens.
Yeah, you say, look, scientists like a politically charged conversation when policies are enacted in response to scientific truths. That's part of the problem that we have today. Everybody has an opinion, and I think you're entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts, and that's why you say science is very important.
Yeah, and consider that I don't mind left-wing, right-wing people arguing over policies. That's what politics is. That's what it's for. And that's why you have a republic, a democracy, where you vote for people who represent a view, and my view might not be the same as your view, but that view should not be whether or not humans are causing climate change. That is an established objective truth by multiple lines of investigation, by multiple branches of science, and that should not be what they're arguing behind the doors in Congress. And so if you do that, you're wasting time that is precious. And so, you know, with these extra bad hurricanes that have come around recently, there's been less of the sort of the right wing, oh, you guys are, the scientists are trying to hoax us. Scientists? Hoax? What? Really?
Does that drive you crazy when you hear that?
No, it's when people want to say the Earth is flat. That really drives me crazy. There's a hierarchy
of things that irritate you.
Yeah. So I'll get there eventually, but there's some other higher orders of business we got to worry about.
You also say that, you know, people mistakenly think that all scientists agree on things.
Oh, yeah.
They think you guys, you and your homies are all in a line with everything.
They say, oh,
no.
here's a new idea, and it'll upset your cherished thing. They speak as though we're sitting in our office, legs up on the table, and they'll have to go back to the drawing board, says the article. And I'll tell you, if you're an active research scientist, you are always at the drawing board. That's where you live, at the boundary between what is known and unknown in the universe. So we're never at rest. We're always contesting ideas at that limit. With each other.
Now, I like when you say when scientists disagree, there are three outcomes.
Yes. So
one is?
Yeah. So when you disagree with someone,
yes,
if it doesn't end up in a fight, you just go away angry because you couldn't convince each other. Two scientists arguing, it's different because we have an unwritten pact between us. It's either I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong, or we're both wrong. We each enter the conversation knowing this. And so what does the argument lead to? It leads to, well, okay, maybe we need better data. In fact, it almost always ends up, we need better data to distinguish what I'm saying being true from what you're saying. And then we say, great, and then we go have a beer, okay?
Yeah. But the data makes the call, right?
It's all about the data.
It's all about the data.
Is the data compelling? Is there enough of it? Is the person who took the data, are they biased? Bias is a pernicious thing within all of us, including scientists. Except in science, we have methods and tools to ferret out what might be your bias. If you have bias and you don't catch it yourself, one of your colleagues is going to find it. And oh my gosh, if they show your bias, that's a demerit, okay? We don't actually give demerits in science, but you drop a few notches in this. And so once we establish an objective truth, it's not later found to be false.
Okay.
That's the important point here.
Okay,
E equals MC squared.
Yes.
It doesn't all of a sudden equal MC cubed.
Yes.
Okay? And, oh, by the way, if I were ever a DJ, I'd be MC squared.
That's what you would be, MC squared?
MC squared. Not MC hammer, MC squared. That's what
MC squared.
If I tell you
I like
that.
what you said, when there's an argument, you end up in a fight. When was the last time, Neil deGrasse Tyson, you had a fight? I'm just curious.
Oh, actually, thanks for an interesting question. No
curious.
one's asking me that. So, unlike everyone, I grew up in the Bronx. Okay?
Which means what? You fight?
Bronx in the house, apparently.
Isn't that where Jennifer Lopez is from? I'm still Jenny from the Bronx.
Yeah, there's a few folks from the Bronx, okay? Yeah. And you say, the Bronx, okay? And I just barely made it here tonight because, like, in the Bronx, I'm a Yankee fan, and they're playing, like, right now.
Oh,
okay?
yeah,
So I'm just saying, right?
yeah.
But that's okay, it's the first game out of a series, so we good.
Yeah.
I won't rush out of here. In the Bronx, so everyone I grew up with got into multiple fights throughout their school years with some bully, whatever. These were the days when it didn't occur to anyone to report bullies to the principal. Just didn't occur to you. You just kind of had to deal with it.
Yes.
And by the way, it is the central plot line to many a movie. I mean, there is no Back to the Future movie without a bully. The bully is the how and why things happen in that movie. So in another era, you know, what did my father tell me? He said, anyone bullies you, you punch him in the face. You don't report him to the principal. It's another era.
You handle it, yes.
Get rid of that.
Yeah.
No, my point is, I was bigger than most other kids in my grade. I was also, in high school, captain and undefeated on my wrestling team. I also studied martial arts. So I was a geek who could actually kick your ass, okay? But I'm just saying, I'm not bragging or anything.
You're not bragging, you're just stating facts.
It's just the facts.
Just facts, okay.
I'm just saying, okay? so yeah, I could totally kick your ass. But I never got into a fight in my entire life. And there was one time—
I think that's good, though.
Oh, no, I agree. There was one time a bully pulled a knife on me. Now, I was responsible because this was one of these March snowfalls where the snow is thick and heavy and it's very snowbally. And so during lunch hour in high school, a big snowball fight broke out. And this guy had a leather jacket. He was, back then we'd call them greasers. And he was a non-combatant, but happened to be on the side where we were throwing snowballs.
A non-combatant.
Okay, and he was leaning against a car, might have been his car, because they all did mature things that I had cars and stuff, or motorcycles. So he's leaning against the car and his girlfriend is on his arm. And I threw a snowball and it arced and hit him right here, right?
Yeah.
And his girlfriend saw that, okay? And so he got very angry. This is not in the book, by the way, but you should, just so you know what I've been through. So he was clearly embarrassed. He wasn't hurt.
But he was embarrassed.
His girlfriend is right here, and he's got a leather jacket. So out came all the epithets. Nigger this, you don't come back through there. I see you in school. I'm going to cut you, don't you, blah, 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 blah. And he just on and on and on. And so at the end of the snowball fight, because the period ended, I start migrating towards one of the doors, and he's on an intersection course.
Migrating towards, did you guys catch that? I would say I walked over to the door.
Okay.
I started
migrating
is a good word.
To one of the doors. That's a perfectly good word.
I didn't say it wasn't a good word.
Okay, so migrating towards it. And I said, he's going to intersect me. Let me go to a different door. So then he has to walk a little faster to do that. And then he intersects me. And I don't think he realized from afar that I'm about an inch taller than he is. Okay, so you have to look up to me. And he's in biker boots. So he pulls out
and
a double.
his girlfriend is watching.
I don't remember the girlfriend because I just paid attention to the knife. Okay, there might have been his girlfriend might have been there. There was not thinking. So he pulled out a 007. Look it up. It's about a 6-inch blade. It's a locking blade, and this was a scene like right out of the knife fight in West Side Story. You know, the knife twists like this, and you see the reflection of the sunlight. And he says, "You hit my jacket with a snowball," okay, or something. He stated the facts.
Yes.
So I said to myself, he's got a knife. I could probably disarm him before he has a chance. Very fast reflexes, too. I don't mean, I'm just saying. It's just what that is. It's the Bronx. You got to, okay? So I could do that and incapacitate him. But then that would just embarrass him more. And maybe he'd be waiting behind a corner, or behind a tree for me.
To get you later, yeah.
Plus, maybe I don't succeed and he stabs me, maiming me or possibly killing me. At that time, I was already accepted to the college of my choice. So I said to myself...
Can I ask what the college of your choice was?
At the time? I went to Harvard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I knew that. I just wanted to see if you would say it. I just wanted to see if you would say it. Okay, go ahead.
So this story's almost over. Sorry.
Okay.
So what felt like 10 minutes of thought probably was only 10 seconds. I said, I could fight him. I'd probably win, but he'd have revenge on me for the rest of our school year. I could, I might get stabbed. I could die. I think that's low likelihood. I don't fear him plus his knife, but I have way more to lose than he has to gain.
Yes.
So I said, so I'm going through this in rapid motion. I said, I'm sorry. I hit your jacket. It was a mistake, and it won't happen again.
Wow.
I didn't say it timidly, but I said it honestly.
I was
I
was not expecting that.
And at that point, there's nothing he can do.
Yes.
And he said, okay. And then he folded up the knife. And then, thenceforth, we like waved to each other in the corridor.
Yeah.
Right? And so...
And what is
that was
message?
my first experience with détente, right?
Oh,
or whatever the politicians call it,
yes.
you know?
Yes.
And so if you let your ego get in the way, there's bloodshed, particularly testosterone and all of this.
Yeah.
My point is, maybe if I didn't wrestle, that would have to come out some other way, but I would leave all my testosterone on the mat.
Yeah.
And so I had if being a guy means you have to fight, I did fight on the wrestling match. That's what it all was.
But look how you did it. It reminds me, I was younger. I don't really think I've ever had a temper, but I was in the car and somebody cut me off and my children were little. They were still in car seats and I'm amped up and I'm going after her.
What? You chasing someone in your car?
With children in car seats.
What?
With children in car seats. I'm not proud of it, but that was back in the day.
You're chasing somebody?
Chasing.
Don't you realize, woman?
I know, chasing on the highway. It's stupid. But so I get next to her and I'm, and she goes, sorry. And all I could do was, that's okay.
That's right.
So it reminds me of that story. I mean, and then I felt like an idiot that, God, Gayle, you got that worked up for what?
Right.
But I just said, it's interesting that
it's disarming.
It is.
Right.
I realized in that moment, she probably didn't even know she cut me off. But you've had a very interesting childhood. You talk about in the book how, and I think you were 10, or your science fair project that you did about sunlight, moonlight, werewolves.
Yeah, it was an eighth grade science fair, yeah.
You came in second.
Yeah, I came in second.
You came in second. But what was your point about that?
Oh, in that part of the book, there's a chapter called Earth and Moon.
Yeah.
Because we're on our way to the politics and the, you know. But in there, I was just exploring how to invoke rational thinking and reason to claims people make.
Yeah.
So
this is in 8th grade, Neil. I'm just fascinated by your brain as a kid.
oh no, this is not rocket science at this point. No, it's simple thinking.
I was doing a volcano.
Okay, everybody does the
Paper
volcano.
mache.
I was not doing a volcano thing.
I
was not
know,
doing
I
the
know.
Okay,
I know.
so there are people say, oh, the full moon, it turns you into a werewolf, okay? And I was thinking, how come they only turn into a werewolf when they notice the moon? Right? They're not just walking around and just turn into a werewolf and then realize the moon is. So somehow they got to notice the moon. And then the moon like comes out from behind clouds. But the moon was full even when it's behind the clouds. It's full when you're in your basement, okay? So what is going on here? Oh, so maybe it's the light. They got to see the light. Well, the moon reflects sunlight. So if the moon turns you into a werewolf, so should the sun, okay? But that's not happening. And what I said at that part of the thing, my 8th grade science fair project,
Who does this in 8th grade, guys?
I
That's all I'm saying.
a spectrum of the moonlight and compared it to a spectrum of the sunlight to show that it's the same. The tiny insignificant difference, but it's basically the same. So I was able to demonstrate this, that the moon is just simply sharing sunlight with you at night.
Yes.
And so a werewolf should be a mega werewolf in the daytime, and they're not. So there's some flaws in the storytelling.
So, okay, so that was in 8th grade.
But that wasn't rocket science. That's just thinking through what.
I don't know. I just saw it in 10th grade, or what grade were you in? 8th grade?
At that time, 8th grade.
8th grade, in 8th
science
grade,
fair.
because I'm thinking when you were 10. So when you're in 8th grade, I think we're about 12, 13.
No,
8th
older.
grade?
Yeah, 13, 14.
13,
yeah.
okay. So when you're 10, you take note of Madeleine Mary O'Hare at 10. Something she said, the noted atheist.
Oh, wow.
And what was your response as a grown-up?
Yeah. So I'm old, and I was
thought this was
born
interesting.
the same week as NASA was founded. Okay, so
That's what I
why
said.
does somebody whistle? What? He's like, you're old. What? You might. Yeah, I'm old. I'm an old man sitting right here in the chair. I wish it was a rocking chair, and I'd be.
Neil,
Okay.
Neil, how old are you?
I'm as old as NASA. Go look it up.
Okay, I'm gonna.
You have act. Oh, she's doing it now.
Google.
You work for a news organization. If
Okay.
you can't get that. Okay, so.
I didn't know you were sensitive about your age.
No,
but
I'm not
okay.
sensitive about my age. So, I'm actually quite proud of my age.
Well, then how old are you?
Okay, so. I turned 64 2 weeks ago.
Oh, bravo. Hey. When you turned 64, did you put on the Beatles song, Will You Still Need Me? Will you still
love
feed
me? Yeah, feed me.
When I'm 64. Did you put that on?
Yeah, back then, I think 64 was older than it is
did,
today.
I know. 64 seems so old when they'd release that song.
Yeah.
Anybody in this audience know that Beatles song? When
Everybody knows that Beatles song.
Okay.
Will you still love me? Will you still need me when I'm 64?
When I'm 64, okay.
So
Madeline
on
Mary
that
O'Hare.
day, I could post, I don't feel a day over 64. It's a joke, right? Okay, so I was 10 when we were landing on the moon, all right? And there's a little black and white TV, there it is. And then I noticed, but before then, Apollo 8 went to the moon. You don't remember that. Apollo 8 in 1968, December, left Earth, because there was rumors that Russia was going to do that first, left Earth, orbited the moon a few times and came back. But since they didn't land, nobody remembers them. I remember them because the first time anybody ever left Earth for a destination. And by the way, since 1972, we haven't done that in 50 years. All right, so that in a way was more remarkable than the moon landing itself. So they go out there, and that's the crew that took the picture of Earthrise above the lunar landscape. Perhaps the most recognized photo there ever was. By the way, the moon always shows the same face towards Earth, so that when you're on the moon, Earth never rises or sets. It's just there in the sky. So the fact that it was rising meant it's because they're orbiting. But it was so tempting to think, well, they have moonrise on Earth, you have Earthrise on the moon. It's not true.
Okay.
So it's misnamed Earthrise. Earth does not rise on the moon.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I believe you.
Okay.
I believe you.
In fact, thank you for believing me.
Yes, I do.
All right. But you don't have to believe me. I just told you the moon always shows the same face.
Okay.
So it's not a belief system.
Okay.
It's
facts.
It's just facts. Right.
Okay.
Right. So they went like December 20th or something. No, December 18th, and they get to the moon, and they're orbiting the moon, and it's Christmas Day. Mm-hmm. And the 3 astronauts on Christmas Day took turns reading the first 10 verses of Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth, and the earth was without form and void. They were compelled to do this. Shortly after that, the head of the American Atheists, I forgot the full title of their group, Madeleine Murray O'Hair, sued the American government for mixing the religion with secular activities. And I thought about that, and I said, you know, if I didn't have the snark back then that I have today. So I'm saying, if the me of today met the Madeleine O'Hair of then,
you would have said.
Here's what I would have said. I would have said, Madeleine, were you the one who was strapped to a rocket with 3 million pounds of thrust, and the rocket is 36 stories tall, launched into space, 250,000 miles out, seeing Earth for the first time from that distance? Did that happen to you? She would say, no. Then I say, then shut the fuck up.
That's page 50.
Page 50?
Yeah, that's page 50. I cracked up, Neil.
Just my point is.
I cracked up.
My point is, space makes you feel stuff.
Yeah.
Okay? And if you happen to be religious, and if you feel more religious, you can't take that away from someone. Let that express itself. And that's what they did. They read the 10 verses, and I repeat the 10 verses in there, and then they said, Apollo 8 astronauts signing out, good luck, Godspeed to all residents of planet Earth. And so I'm trying to say that cosmic perspectives can change you. They can change you in ways that reset, rebalance everything that you held strongly and firmly, and that you want to argue with people about, but maybe your argument is air, but you think it's real. Maybe can I give an example? The opening quote in the book is from Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell.
Do you know it by heart?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for asking me.
Okay.
Yes. She
okay, go ahead.
protected me here.
I'm going to make sure you do it verbatim. Go ahead.
So, Apollo 14, they went to the moon. Edgar Mitchell, as quoted in Time magazine after he came back, you develop an instant global consciousness, a people orientation, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it.
That's right.
From out there.
Wait, there's more. Okay.
From out there on the moon, international politics looks so petty. You want to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck and drag him 250,000 miles out and say, look at that, you son of a bitch. That applies today. I think we should get Elon to create a space bus, okay? Well, we got Airbus company, space bus, and get all the warring leaders together and stick them on that bus and send them to the moon.
Do you?
Yeah, that'll change them.
What do you make of this, though, with Elon and Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson?
The Billionaire Boys Club?
Well, I mean, but I think that they are all genuinely committed and genuinely interested in this. I don't think it's just I don't believe that it's a big ego thing for them. I don't. I honestly don't, guys. I think they all genuinely are interested in this.
Yeah, I think
And want to make it better.
If you're worth $200 billion,
Yeah, well.
you don't need rockets to help your ego. You got $200 billion.
Yes.
So yeah, I agree with you. I don't think
Yes.
that's, and people complain, why are they billionaires? I said, there's a whole lot of other things billionaires could be doing that are much worse than developing technology to go into space. Plus, we are witnessing the birth of an entire tourist sector. Think about it.
Which you think is going to be commonplace.
Yeah, I think it can be common.
do.
You save up, it's a completely elastic demand curve where if 100 people have $10 million to do this, then 1,000 people have 1 million, and then 100,000 people will have 1,000. I mean, I think the demand will just go up if you drop the price. So I would give up several vacations worth of money to take that trip once in 2 years, for sure.
You would?
Oh, yeah. However.
You would?
Well, yeah, why not? Why wouldn't you?
I'm scared.
Of what?
Blowing up. I'm serious.
Okay, so people said, would I go up? And I said, only after Elon Musk sends his mother and brings her back safely. But they've pretty much done that.
But they've done that.
Yeah, they've pretty much done that. So what you want is to have enough trips so that you can then trust the technology. You freely walk in and out of airplanes.
Yes.
When there's a day they were crashing multiple times a year.
I know.
Okay, so
and we don't know anything about the pilot who's flying.
I don't care. I don't want to know. I just want to know they can fly the damn plane.
Yeah.
I don't need to know his name. I don't need to know anything.
Well, I always get on and say, "Did you get a good night's sleep, sir, ma'am? Everything okay at home? Everything good?" Okay, so you say there's so much good stuff in this book. Okay.
Wait, just quick. So, what was I saying? Oh, the billionaire boys race.
Yes.
So when people say, do I want to go into space? And they usually think about the billionaire boys. My response is, do you realize that Branson and Bezos, in those are suborbital flights, if Earth were a schoolroom globe, which we've referenced earlier, their height above Earth is the thickness of 2 dimes. And so as an astrophysicist, to me, that's not going into space. I can't accept that as space. Space is the moon, Mars, and beyond. I don't want to boldly go where hundreds have gone before.
Yes.
Take me somewhere.
Yes. I know that when they give me the questions, it means we have to wrap up.
Oh, yeah, okay, good.
It's so fun, though. I don't want you to go. I don't know, should I go to your forbidden Twitter file or
the
your
forbidden Twitter file?
your predictions for 2050. And you say, make a future fool of yourself. I'll talk about your predictions for 2050, but I do think that there's a funny thing in the book about scientists going to Las Vegas, how what happens when scientists go to Las Vegas, and that you did the vain author move when you went to the bookstore in Las Vegas looking for your book.
Oh, okay, so there's a section.
Looking for your book.
Wait, so
That's pretty vain, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
So there's a chapter called Risk and Reward.
Yes.
Which is all about probability and statistics and how the human brain is woefully inequipped to think statistically and probabilistically about this world. Okay, I don't know, should you applaud that or applaud that we recognize it's a problem and it's not our fault? Do you realize that probability and statistics was one of the last branches of math to be discovered? It was discovered after calculus. The first time anyone thought it was a good idea to take an average of numbers was in the 1800s. Okay, so clearly thinking probabilistically is not natural. You see people throwing dice and they want to get low numbers like a 1 and a 2, so they throw them gently. Get high numbers. No, that's not how that works, okay? But people betting on a 7 on the roulette table, and come on, 7. I said, why are you betting on 7? Well, it's due, right? Because the roulette table shows you the previous 12 things. No, it's not due. That's not how any of this works. And then you realize that an entire industry has risen up to exploit this failure of the human consciousness, and they're called casinos. And so what's that? So as a scientist, I'm trained separately in probability and statistics for every year of college and every year of graduate school. That's what it takes, okay? And so what happens? The American Physical Society, which is my people who physicists in the
Yes.
country, were going to have their annual conference in San Diego. There was a hotel mix-up, and where are we going to bring 3,000 physicists? Vegas said, we got room in the MGM Grand, so they all moved to Vegas, okay? At the end of the week, there was a headline, physicists in town, lowest casino take ever.
Isn't that funny? Yes.
Yeah. So I reproduced the headline in there.
Yes.
So it's not that they knew how to win, it's that they knew not to bet.
Yes.
And look at K through 12, they don't teach probability and statistics. And and the state lottery, okay? What does the state, typically what does state lottery money go towards? Education. So it is in their interest to never teach you probability and statistics, okay? Because if they did, it would be the seeds of the unraveling of the entire lottery system combined.
So you think it's foolish to play the lottery?
There's one legitimate answer that I could summon for it, okay,
Yes,
for the lottery.
You think it's...
Okay, ready? Okay.
I always play if it's over 300 million.
So does everyone else, reducing your chance of winning the full 300 million. Okay.
I didn't say it was smart.
And I got one for you. Ready?
Okay.
Here's a headline you've never seen.
Okay.
Fortune teller wins the lottery again. Okay. This is just basic science perspective on civilization. All right, so
tell the story about going to the airport.
wait. Okay, so one of my books, it was about Pluto.
Yes.
Get over it, okay? Just don't start me here on Pluto. You ain't getting it back, get over it. Okay. Pluto had it coming. Yes, okay. So, I had a book out on Pluto called The Pluto Files, The Rise and Fall of America's Favorite Planet. And I'm going, and I was filming in Vegas for PBS at the time. And so I'm landing in the McCarran Airport, and the book had just come out, so I did the vain author thing. You go to the bookstore, see if your book is there, right? And then you offer to sign it, and, okay. So I go to, and this was like a small version, this is back when Borders Books was still, big enough to have sections, right? So it wasn't just the news, and
a couple of racks.
A couple of racks.
Yeah.
And so I first went around and looked, I couldn't find my book. So I said, do you have a science section?
Yes.
And they said, oh no, we don't have a science section here. And in that moment, it occurred to me, wouldn't want any critical thinking going on before you go gamble.
Yes. And you tweeted
because this is Las Vegas. That was my first tweet in 2009 that was a window into what the world looks like to me. Mm-hmm. And that started what is now 13 years of tweets that are what the world looks like to me. And I have some tweets in there, but there's some drawn from the forbidden Twitter file because it would upset too many people.
Yes, including your daughter.
I left some out.
That's another story. I'll get to, because I do have to get to audience questions. Guys, we had the funniest thing backstage, because Sue, who puts this all together, said, so we're going to do audience questions, and we're going to get them ahead of time, and then, Gayle, you go through and pick them out. And Neil deGrasse Tyson says, you know, one of the things I do best is take audience questions. And I don't really need them edited. I prefer that we just go with whatever it is. And so I just think that that's hilarious. Even we're having a discussion about how to do audience questions. So anyway, he said, don't edit them, just you said you will take them as they come.
They wanted to take out the crazy, stupid questions.
And he said, how do you know they're crazy and stupid? They might not be crazy and stupid to me.
What matters is the answer, not the question.
The question. Okay, so I will go through as many of these. Okay, but in your book, page 39, predictions for 2050, and you even preface this by making a future fool of yourself. You say mental illness will be cured, so will cancer. We'll be able to regrow limbs and failing organs. Self-driving electric cars will fully replace cars.
Yeah, so the preface to that is I go through 30-year increments from 1870 to 2020, demonstrating that over a 30-year period, nobody at the beginning of that period had any clue what the world looked like 30 years later. Nobody. Only 30 years. And so, you know, in 1990, we're told, did you get your fax machine? Yeah, okay, that's 1990. And so I track that. And then I said, all right, since we're here in 2020, let me make a fool of myself and make some predictions so that in 2050, you can laugh at me.
Okay.
But the thing about all cars going electric self-driving, I think that's real, and I'll tell you why. You don't own a car for 30 years, typically.
True.
You own a car for 5, at most 10 years.
10,
That is the time scale to switch things out, okay? So what's gonna happen? The HOV lane is gonna go self-driving. And if you're self-driving, a self-driving car can go 120 miles an hour, packed with just a few feet between cars because they have better reflexes than you, right? And they're not putting on makeup or talking on the phone or whatever else people do in a car, all right? And so, do you realize between 1905, take a look at any photo of Lower Manhattan, all forms of transportation are horses. By 1925, 20 years later, you can barely give away a horse. We built civilization, literally and figuratively, on the backs of horses, and within 20 years, like I said, you couldn't give away a horse. It was replaced by cars because the advantages of it were so clear and manifest.
Mental illness and cancer, you believe that we will cure that?
So here's regrowing limbs. I remember growing up, they said the human body is the pinnacle of evolution. No, it's not. Because if it were, we'd be able to regrow limbs the way newts do, okay? So...
It's funny when he cracks himself.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
He was telling jokes back there, and Sue and I were like, okay. And he's falling out laughing. I'm like, much like you are right now.
No, I'm just saying. So once you get the genetic code of life understood, you find out what enables the regrowing limbs in those animals who do, which, by the way, includes crustaceans. They can regrow claws. And figure out how to splice that into human DNA, we regrow limbs. Nature already has that.
But why, I don't understand why we haven't licked cancer yet. I know we've made all sorts of progress and great strides, but I don't understand why it's still so devastating.
I mean, other than the
today.
oft-repeated fact that your cancer cells are your own cells, and so it's very hard to attack cells that are bad for you that look just like cells that are good for you. And I think that's at the heart of all of it. So that makes it one of the greatest challenges, hence the book, The Emperor of All Maladies, right? That's now
you say 2050.
a series. But I think by 2050. And there are a few others in there. I'm just so that I can be made a fool.
Well, you said future fool. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
You said that. All right, so I'm going to try to get through as many audience questions, no editing.
Let's do it, and I'll go quick soundbite answers.
The quicker you answer, the more we can get through.
Let's do it.
Do you believe scientists have a moral responsibility to refrain from certain research questions if they could represent a danger to humanity?
I think the research itself there is no moral dimension to the research. The morality comes about with what society does with the research. So we can split the atom. That's a highly useful thing. Oh, you want to make a bomb out of it? Okay, so yes, there were scientists tasked to make a bomb, but the moment you're making a bomb out of it, it's no longer just a pure science. You've been tasked by politicians and the geopolitical landscape to choose sides and make a moral decision about the discovery. But pure scientific discovery has no such moral dimensions at all.
Have you ever done a psychedelic? If so, what did you experience?
Okay.
Short answer, Neil.
The human mind
Yeah.
barely works at all. It barely works. You ever see books of optical illusions?
Yes.
Simple line drawing. Is it in the page? Out of the page?
Yes.
I don't know. It's a simple picture. Fooling your brain.
Neil, have you done a psychedelic?
I'm getting there. So, I want to be as close to reality as I can, realizing that the human brain barely works in that capacity. I have never ingested mind-altering drugs in my entire life.
Okay, I believe you, because I think if you had, you would tell us. Where do you see humanity? Where do you see humanity in 200 years?
No, I can't predict 30 years. Yeah, 200 years ago, did anyone have any idea? No, you have no idea. You realize in 1900, if you got people to list the things that presented the greatest existential threats to them, they would say tuberculosis, they would say, I don't know, food supply getting outstripped by population, okay? If you look at the list in the year 2000, nothing on that list was even dreamt of in the year 1900. So what I fear most is in the year 2100, what's on that list that we don't even see today coming?
Can you run for president?
Okay, I was once asked that by the New York Times, and I replied, and it's online. I said, because there was some impasse in Congress where it was like they said, maybe someone who's not a traditional politician would have a better solution. I said, no, I would not run for president because that implies you swap out one leader, put in another, and everything will be fine again. You realize 80 whatever million people voted for Donald Trump. You could take Donald Trump out, but there's still the matter of the 80 million people. And as an educator, it is my duty to talk to the electorate, your fellow countrymen, okay? And talk to them and say, well, how do you think and why? I'm an educator. I'd rather educate an electorate so they elect the right person into office so you don't have to then think about swapping them out.
Yes.
Thank you.
What do you read for pleasure?
What do I read for pleasure? I read non-fiction antiquarian science books to probe how people used to think.
Is that pleasure? Did you hear the question? What do you read for pleasure? What do you read for pleasure, Neil deGrasse Tyson? Are you watching Real Housewives?
I like probing the history of our species and how we thought about this world so that I can put how current thoughts in context. That's what I read for pleasure.
Do you think the traditional timeline of human existence is accurate, or was there something earlier?
I'm not given reason to doubt what we have found anthropologically and archaeologically with Cro-Magnon, Neanderthal, and the like. Oh, a quick thing in the chapter on color and race. Yeah, I went there.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
There's you realize we old timers, we grew up. If you called someone Neanderthal, that was an insult. Okay, like they're still evolving Neanderthal, and they all went extinct anyway. Okay, do you realize that the most racist scientific community ever were 19th century anthropologists? They're the ones that set up the race and this, and human beings were at the top of the evolution. White male humans were at the top of the evolutionary ladder, and blacks and everybody else were lower, still evolving, closer to the apes, and all of this. This was going on for coming out of the 18th century into the 19th century. My point is, in that, I had a really good point I was going to make. You asked this about, where were we going with this? What was the question? Neanderthals. So watch what happens. In the 1990s, now that we can do genetic tracking and things, now we do genetic tracking, the world found out that Europeans are between 1% and 3% Neanderthal genetically, and Africans are 0% Neanderthal. So in the 1990s, research papers started coming out talking about how creative and imaginative the Neanderthals must have been and how they used tools. A complete facelift of the Neanderthals. That started at the time they learned this.
That's good.
There's an entire chapter here just on the rational analysis of people's racist ways.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm going to end question with this because I want to end with something in your book. Okay, I'm a preschool teacher and want to know, what's your advice for teaching very young kids to think like scientists? I love that question.
Make them free-range kids.
Laura, I love that.
Free-range, okay? Yeah, they're going to break stuff. Yeah, they're going to turn order into chaos. That is their expression of curiosity. And every time you squash that, you are quelling a scientific experiment they might have done. We all had kids that pulled the pots and pans out of the drawer, and they bang on it, and you say, stop the racket, you're getting them dirty. You just stopped an experiment in acoustics. How does a wooden spoon sound against a metal pot relative to a metal spoon? You just squash that. You got to let it go. Let that go, and it'll take care of itself. No recipe involved, because all kids are born curious, and if they stay curious their whole life, they become scientists. A scientist is just a kid who happened to get older.
Do you think that's true? That all kids are born curious?
Yes!
All kids are born
That's
curious.
why it's toddlers. If you look the other way, they're dead because their curiosity will kill. They're going to eat stuff. They're going to poke stuff in the wall socket. So yeah, so free range. So just to the point where they're not going to kill themselves.
Okay.
But right up to that edge, take them. Okay.
Okay. I do want to end with this because we're past our time. But you're so great, Neil. It's better to be alive than dead, he says. Though more often than not, we take being alive for granted. So the question remains. If you could live forever, would you? And I want to know what your answer is to that.
No, I wouldn't.
You would not?
Right. It's the knowledge that I'm going to die that brings focus to every day I'm alive. Oh. And I mean, think about it. If you live forever, what would compel you to do anything tomorrow because you can do it the next day, right? And and by the way, this is not, I didn't pull this out of the ether. Just think to yourself, if you have a loved one and you brought to them plastic flowers, that would not be considered a romantic gesture.
True.
Even though the plastic flowers would last forever. Well, why? They're bringing you something that's going to die. Why? Because that brings focus to those flowers. You pay attention to them. You smell them every morning. You watch them even through their senescence as their necks droop. And you invest appreciation for them while they're alive that you would never give to plastic or silk flowers. There's the knowledge you're going to die. And take dogs, for example. You know, the dog year calculation is about 7 years. Yeah. And so whoever owns dogs, you'll know this does not apply to cats, okay? So dogs, you go out to the mailbox and come back. They're jumping all over you, want to lick you in the face. And you say,
that's so true.
Why? By the way, did you earn this respect from your dog? Probably not. But the dog is excited to see you every day, excited to go out. They see the chain. They're excited to go in the car. Where are we going? I don't care. Let's go there. And then you realize, because this factor of 7, for every week of our lives, they get to live only one day. So maybe they know deep down that they got to make every day matter. And they do. Oh. And so, yeah, and consider further that the number of ways, this is a point made brilliantly by Richard Dawkins, that if you look at the total number of human beings that can exist, because we know the genome, we know the combinations of genes, it's in the countless quadrillions, higher. How many people have ever been born? About 100 billion. This is a vanishingly small fraction of the total people who could ever be born. So the fact that you are alive is true against stupendous odds. Because even though you die, we will all die. And yes, it's sad, but you die because you had lived. Yeah. And most people who could exist will never even be born. Wow. All right. And so that's in the final chapter there called Life and Death, where, again, these are perspectives on life and perspectives on death. So if you wanted to sort of end there, if you allow me to recite that final quote by Horace Mann.
Yes, I will.
A great educator. Are you going to check, see if I get the quote
Okay, this is going to be, yes, I am, because I know where it is.
Yeah.
Before we leave, I do want to give a shout out to Erin. There's someone who works here. Her name is Celeste. She took great care of us.
Celeste, cool name.
She took great care of us in the back. And she said, my dad is here. My dad, Aaron, is over here somewhere. She said, my dad, Aaron, is here, and this is the first 92nd Street Y event he's come to, and he came because of you. So shout out to Aaron. Your daughter's lovely. Your daughter is lovely. Okay, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
By the way, we were talking about you behind stage. If your daughter's name's Celeste, You should have been named Sonny or
yes,
something.
Yes, I said, what's your dad's name?
But you just named Aaron, that's not a thing,
yes.
you know? That's not a thing.
Okay, but we're going to close at your request with a Horseman quote. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Horseman, you know, he's got a school up in the Bronx.
Yeah.
And
he says, on the whole, I don't fear death. Go ahead.
Yeah. So for me, I don't fear death. What I fear is living a life where I could have accomplished more than I did. So that brings everything, like I said, into focus. And I'm reminded of this quote from Horseman, a great educator from 2 centuries ago, who was a university president. And in his farewell address, he said,
I beseech.
Oh, thank you. I beseech you to treasure up in your hearts these, my parting words. Be ashamed to die until you have scored some victory for humanity.
Very nice. Thank you, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Thank you, guys. Bravo. Bravo. Don't forget to get your books.